I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, guys. Lanny, we're staying old school this week, and we've got a custom call maker. Toxic, this guy is unbelievable.
He is unbelievable.
Yeah, let me just go ahead and get him introduced because he can add to our conversation here. But we've got Mr. Lamar Williams. And guys, y'all seen some of his calls in the Mr. Fox Fest.
Yeah. Decked out in Mossy Oak, I would say. Looking good.
Mr. Williams, thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
And just for clarification, I'm going to call him Mr. Lamar, but his name is Lamar Williams. And so going forward, I won't confuse everybody, but just out of respect. And I tell you what, the more I've learned about you, Mr. Lamar, the more impressed that your old way of doing things and the way your box calls sound.
Thank you.
Just, Lanny, it's incredible.
It is.
So look, we're going to get started. We'll let Dudley ask you some rapid fires. But before that, guys, last night we had a 27-degree night, and I want to ask: are we in any danger of losing any of our mass crop? In y'all's opinions?
You can answer first, but I would say, yeah, we are. And now, did we just have a total disaster last night? I don't think so. Dudley knows more than me, but I would say it did not help at all, was what he said. I'd agree with that.
I mean, anytime you get below freezing when stuff is trying to leaf out and bloom, there's, it's not going to be better because of that. I can assure you. But, like you were saying, I didn't see a whole lot of like hard frost, and that frost is what really kind of cuts into the cell walls and whatnot. So if you get water and then that freezes, that insulates everything.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But we really had neither. I mean, there wasn't a lot of white frost out there, but it stayed 27 basically from 2 in the morning until, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's a long time for little stuff like that to freeze. So.
I think the breeze was blowing lightly, kept it from getting a little colder than it would have, and I think that air moving may help a little bit. I'd feel better if we weren't going to have a pretty hard frost tonight also, but time will tell. It's pretty complex. I think the stage that they're most vulnerable, but I feel like we're in it with a lot of them this year.
Well, I tell you what we saw yesterday, Bobby.
Yeah.
Some snow.
Yeah, we did.
On March 16th.
Yeah.
And we
had a 15-minute blizzard.
Yeah, we did. And it was almost 40 degrees.
It
and
was
it was
30,
snowing.
38, 39 degrees and snowing, a blizzard.
Which is weird because it'll be, 29 here and raining, and
I'm pretty sure they had a measurable snowfall build up in like Birmingham yesterday, if I'm not mistaken.
That's amazing because Sunday I was working on a roof. And
hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, out there.
84 degrees. So it went from 84 to 27. North Mississippi, 22. And by Saturday, it'll be 84 again.
What is the, Mr. Lamar, what's the weather doing down in North Florida where you are? What's it doing right now?
It's supposed to, like I said, it was 37 last night, and it gets colder. We've had probably more freezing weather this year than we have in several years. So I think they're getting back to normal.
How about that?
Yeah, I was telling him earlier, it's just the way it's worked out, but we had Davis Love, we had Pastor Joby, we had Dave Edwards, and everybody's, including
pretty close,
Mr. Lamar, are in that same area right there.
Mm-hmm. There's probably a good reason for that.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of turkeys there.
Might be some turkeys around there.
Yeah, are there a lot of turkeys around there, Mr. Lamar?
Yes. I just had a hen in my backyard.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Can you walk out your backyard and yelp and expect to hear a gobble?
I haven't been able to do that yet, but I have them coming back there. Yesterday there was 2 old hens and 4 jakes. I've had 3 longbeards in there. It's probably been about a month ago, but now they're 3 or 4 year old birds at least. So one of them had probably a 12-inch beard. but I don't hunt them. They're like pets. Others might hunt them back behind me, but
Yep.
They're in
That's
the
the way to
safe
go.
zone.
Somebody's probably hunting them.
Somebody's hunting
You
them,
know
that's
those
right.
Jakes. I'll think about the people that love college football. Those Jakes are having that's when you got a great recruiting class when you get those Jakes there. So
Yeah.
it's optimism for the future. And it's depressing, when you go a couple years in a row without seeing much, hard times are coming. So we've been really fired up lately all around the South. We're seeing more Jakes than normal, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. All right, so look, let me do this. I'm going to change the name of a little thing that we do just briefly
look
here.
at
So,
you.
Landy,
Okay.
don't freak out.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I
has
love
anybody
change.
heard of any blood on the Jake's vest recently?
Oh, I hear you.
Yeah, I have.
I think there's somebody at the table. That has.
So why don't we
There's maybe more than just
Yeah,
what
there
I
is.
heard of.
yeah,
there's some at the
why don't
table.
you start off, Doctor?
So, we had a guest this weekend. I guess, I don't know, he's probably pretty secret about it, but he had talked about coming sometime because I said, would you like to come? And he said, well, I would love to come and bring my 10-year-old daughter. He actually brought 2 daughters with him. And so it was Mr. Thomas Rhett, the singer. And he's one of the absolute nicest guys you've ever met in your life. Grew up hunting a lot. And so in fact, he made a post today about how much he just loves the spring and everything about it, including being the season of rebirth for everything too. But anyway, on the opening that afternoon, we had a really good hunt that morning, and they could have shot a couple times, and she was very conscious of not shooting. There was 2 standing together, and she didn't think they're far enough apart. And then another one, she didn't have a clear shot. So we had a great hunt. We heard gobbling. But then son Neil, my ace guide, he took them that afternoon and got on a turkey, had a great all-afternoon gobbling hunt, did circles around them. And then they thought they were done for the afternoon, and she evidently saw the turkey coming and didn't say anything. And so next thing you know, Dad Thomas, her gun raises up right in front of his nose out there, and he looked over to the side, and there's the turkey came, and she dusted him. Big
Wow.
turkey.
How about
10
the
years
horns
old.
on that?
Willa Grace.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
So
Good
he
job,
was,
Willa Grace.
yeah, 10 years old.
that is awesome.
And that was really fun to go with them. Just kids that are raised right, respectful, love the outdoors. I mean, Neil was trying to carry him across some of the deeper water and stuff, and it's like, no, I'll just do it myself and like wade through the water, and
I like that.
That
Yep.
is good.
You gotta love that.
So that was a lot of fun. And for the first weekend when you used to just kind of, and he was like, I can't come up there and mess up y'all's opening weekend. I said, look, it was nothing we love to do more than take kids. Sometimes I worry about getting to go. My old self comes out. I want to go to combat. I want to kill one. I want to hang one on the porch. But man, when you stop and do that with someone, it just sticks with you so much more.
It does.
Yeah. All right, Laney, have you got one?
Well, I've got one, but I think it'd be more appropriate for Dudley to talk about it than I.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Oh,
is
little
big
Dud.
news. Big news.
This was big news.
Yeah.
Big time.
Little Dud got his first turkey.
All right.
Age 15.
Yeah.
Clay County, Mississippi. Wouldn't have it any different.
Earned
at
it.
the home place.
Yeah.
Dudley
right.
White Shoes Phelps.
Yeah, so he got some blood on his Adidas.
There you go. That's
We
awesome.
went to church Sunday morning and then came home and ate leftovers like normal
Like
people
this,
do.
yeah.
And I said, "Hey man, you want to go sit in the woods this afternoon? We may." I saw some turkeys, out there. So he obliged, and so we went out and stopped by Academy to grab some boots. And unfortunately, they had a lot of choices, but nothing in Mossy Oaks.
No,
So
they were
we,
sold out.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
sold out. And so I said, you know what? We can just cover those white shoes up with some Mossy Oak camo
Yeah.
and try to call a turkey in. No big deal. And so we did and sat down, called once, and kind of did what I like to do. We dozed off for a while, opened and closed our eyes, and looked for turkeys. And about an hour later, we saw some way off in the woods, just little flickers of them. And they came by in gun range, but didn't offer a shot. They were kind of on my side. And so we sat there and watched this one longbeard strut for close to 2 hours before he sealed the deal. He was about maybe 60 yards or so, and we just didn't want to shoot that far. And he was behind a big old pine log laying there, strutting and drumming and driving us crazy. And as if God sent us a little treat, I heard a hen doing a kiki yelp back behind us.
Oh,
the
that's
live
exactly
decoy.
what I want to hear
And
right there. Yeah.
I was like, thank you, Jesus. And that gobbler jumped up on that log and hopped on over and just strutted on into about 35, 40 yards, and little Dud put it on him and pulled the trigger.
You got him a face.
Yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
That may be the happiest picture I've
he
ever
was
seen.
stoked.
He was so
Oh,
fired
he
up.
was so excited.
So that's fourth generation.
Fourth generation.
Fourth generation.
Pure joy.
Yeah.
How about that?
And so
And for you to have done what you've done to be able to
Yeah.
maneuver around and get the plate, all the work you've done on it.
Yeah. On
And
your new
develop it,
place.
honestly, not off in the middle of like Turkey Central, although there's a lot of wildlife around there, and to turn it into that already, I could just see it on his face. It's so sweet.
and I was planning on just taking one bird out there this year.
Oh,
the right
man.
one got it. The right one got it. Well,
So-
you know, he's never mentioned any turkeys to us.
They'd
Bobby
be
has
very
he?
careful
I don't
about
know
mentioning
what it
turkeys.
was. And
That's
it's just all of a
because
sudden out
that's
there.
not something you talk about.
You know,
Yeah. Well, I've got one. One of our listeners wrote in about his son. I think he's young, around 10 years old, but on public land, South Mississippi, Michael McLaughlin
All right.
killed a turkey, and then I think he had another hunt and killed another turkey. So he's had a great jump off to the
Where
season.
was this?
You know, he in his little text he told me, but it was some private. I mean, a public land in South Mississippi. I can't remember where. I put a little drop on the map on where it was, Lanny, but I can't remember to be able to tell you where it was. So, no, but that sounds like some folks are off to a good start.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's look at Mr. Lamar. Have you been hearing of any youngins down in that part of the world killing any turkeys?
Yeah, actually, we have. The Gainesville chapter over in Gainesville, Gator Gobblers, they host a hunt every year for the youth and the women in the outdoors, both turkey and deer. And my grandson guides and my son. And this past Saturday, my son and I had went out on Friday and pre-scouted this place. They've got places to hunt that some of them are hunt club land. The piece we were on was water management land at about 500 acres, and nobody's allowed to hunt it other than these youth or the women. It's great of the water management to give permission to that Gainesville chapter, Gator Gobblers, I should say, chapter to do that. They had, anyway, we heard, I heard 3 gobblers. My son heard 4. And the next morning they went in and the young man was able to kill one about 8:30. Missed him the first time. I was looking at the video that my grandson had. He missed that turkey, and the turkey gobbled when he missed him, and the gobbler beside him gobbled. And in about a minute or so, I guess, that turkey got back into view, and he put him down then. And that afternoon, they went back, and he got another one that afternoon, so he's done.
He had him a real good day.
Wowzers. That's awesome.
That's too much excitement.
Yeah, the lowest of lows or the highest of highs. That's
I met some of those Gator Gobblers down at that event we went to in Gainesville.
Oh, good deal.
Working with Dr. Lashley down there, trying to raise some money for those turkey pen research he's doing.
Yeah.
Some good stuff. All right, well, so that concludes our Blood on the Jakes
On the
Fest
Jakes
segment.
Fest, that's right.
Yeah. Guys, if you've got a youngin', that Mossy has brought back that little small Jakes vest. So you got to get them one of those. I think you can go online and find that. This is just the Jakes vest. Got a cute little patch
vest.
on it. Yeah, you need to get one of those.
It's a good one for sure.
It is a really good product. I looked one over because I guess this weekend had gotten one for each of his daughters, and so I was really impressed.
Yeah.
Get them started young.
You know, and it
good
lets
one
them
to
take a
hand
little
down.
ownership of having a call with them. And honestly, and Mr. Lamar would tell you too, you get like a one-sided box and like maybe a push button. It wouldn't take them very long to make a decent turkey sound if you coach them a little bit. And
Yeah.
and especially if they get out in the woods a few times and they hear some hens. That's ultimately it's not what I say you say is, but it's what they say you want to mimic.
I remember I always had to ask, but I enjoyed my dad letting me use turkey calls.
Yeah, yeah.
in
Oh
the
my
turkey
gosh,
woods.
I was actually nervous at first because we never had anything but mouth calls when I grew up with it, and so I was always nervous too, and I would just be, boop, 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 just like 3 little short, soft yelps to make sure I didn't spook everything. But
Yeah.
Hayden was my official crow caller.
Oh, is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's where we go.
How about that? That's good
I
stuff.
would get so nervous, before I would hit that slate or box.
I still get nervous when I'm out in the woods. If I'm in the truck, I'm a pro.
what did
Getting
he
out
say?
there.
Daddy was like, I was walking in the woods, he would get on to me like, pick your feet up, boy. You got to pick your feet up. And then if I was trying to call, he'd say, "You're slurring it, son."
Oh, that's good stuff. All right, so look, why don't we start with Dudley and his rapid fires? Why don't we get to know Mr. Lamar a little bit better?
All right, Mr. Lamar, I'm going to ask you about 10 or 12 questions pretty fast. Most of it turkey related. Some of it's more personal, but I just need a real quick answer so our folks can get to know you better. So, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. What is your favorite preparation of wild turkey meat?
Fried.
Yeah.
That's the way to go. What is a favorite blooming plant from the spring woods?
Dogwood.
What shotgun have you taken the most turkeys with?
12 gauge Beretta.
What wood combination would you say you've used most over the years on your box calls?
Honduras mahogany. Walnut paddles, bottom.
Name another species of bird you enjoy seeing or hearing in the spring woods.
Cardinals.
What is your favorite species of wood and cut that you just like to look at when you're sitting in the shop?
Walnut.
What do you carry your calls with, and what do you sit on in the turkey woods? Are you a vest guy, or what do you do?
Yeah, I carry them in a vest, and I sit on a chair. I can't think of the brand name of it, but
I know what you're talking about, those low-line chairs.
Yes.
Turkey chair.
Those things are great. What form of chalk do you prefer using?
I use white railroad chalk.
Name something odd. Name a sound that's just odd that you've heard a turkey gobble at that you thought was neat.
Car door slamming.
And what is another spring activity you enjoy outside of the turkey woods?
Fishing.
And last but not least, when did you take your first all by myself spring turkey?
1982.
Okay.
Nice.
And where were you back then?
I was here, and I was hunting a WMA just close to me, 10, 15 miles from me.
Excellent.
All right, so why don't we go back around, Mr. Your story about and the calls that you make is just incredible. Could you just walk us back to what got you interested in making your own turkey calls?
I actually made my first turkey call in high school shop in the 10th grade. Scratch boxes. It was a shop project, and I didn't make another turkey call till 79, and that was a wing bone. And that got me started, and I made wing bones along, trying to make box calls, and glued together box calls, and made my first box call in 82. And the rest is really history. The box calls I made back then were crude compared to the box calls I make now. They were solid body rather than glued together. And I had met Neil Cost in 79 at the NWTF convention in Gainesville, Florida. He was a vendor there, and I was in that chapter, and I was helping them, helping us put on that show. And anyway, I met him and spoke with him some, and didn't really strike up a friendship with him. but I saw the calls that he made and how they were solid body, and he made some great calls, and so I decided to try to change things up a little bit, and I did, and but I really struggled with it for a while. But I didn't have a lot of time back then because uh, I worked with the railroad. I was in the Florida National Guard, and I spent a lot of time fishing too. So it was just it's something I wanted to do, was make the turkey calls. Um, so I just started focusing more on that than going fishing, and taking, family things like that. We were always close family, camped a lot, so forth. But I met Neil again in '80 at the same location. He came back uh, to Gainesville, and we visited some more. And I didn't feel I didn't order a box call from him. I just uh, more or less I would call him from time to time. And then in '81, I met him again. He came to the convention in Tallahassee, and we struck up a good friendship then. And I told him that I was interested in making a good turkey call, box call, and asked him if he'd mind helping me, and he said not at all. And he did. So that started our friendship, and I just changed the way I did things. I started making calls were about the same length. They were not as deep. I was using a spade bit to drill calls when I should have been using the Forstner bit. I went to Forstner bit, and from that point on, I just started. I started making box calls, and I did after that. Several years later, paddle calls. Um, I made my first handled box in '84, and that's a different story altogether because I didn't sell any. Something too, when I started making calls, I made them under Widowmaker turkey calls, and that's what I was making when I started going to shows in '82, and I sold a number of those calls under Widowmaker turkey calls, and then I changed my name of the company to Lamar Williams Turkey Calls. I sold a number of those Widowmaker turkey calls, but I didn't sell a lot of them because I had changed the way I was doing things, so I kept those calls, and I still have, I've still probably got close to 25 of those box calls that I made back then under that name, and I have people from time to time won't know if I'll sell them one, but I haven't sold any. I just keep them for the family.
Am I to understand that you were really the first person that Mr. Cost showed, maybe gave some tutelage about how to build a box call?
Yes, he told me that that I was the first one that stayed with him. He said several people had come to him and asking him his assistance in making calls, and he said, but none of them stuck with it. They quit calling. They quit coming around. And he told me later, he says, I figured you'd do the same thing. He says, but you stuck it out. So as a result of that, he would, we became great friends. He was a very close friend of mine. He was like a daddy to me in a lot of ways. And I would have a little trouble from time to time trying to tune a call. And I would call him up and I'd say, having a little trouble with this call. Can you tell me what I need to do? And he'd say, well, run it for me. So I'd run it for him. He says, yeah, that right side needs a little work. I said, can you tell me what I need to do? He says, no.
Wow.
He says, that's for you to figure out. I said, okay. So I did. And that was good for me. And we just were great friends. I mean, we fished together. We hunted together. He lived six and a half hours from me, north of me, up in Greenwood, South Carolina. And as our friendship progressed, he would come down here and stay with me, hunt with me, fish with me. I'd go up there and hunt and fish with him. I'd take my son with me when we would go up there, and it was just a great time. It was just a good time overall, and just a great friendship. And at some point, I remember that I was using like a number 10 screw in my calls. He was using number 12 screw. And he went to number 10 screw, and then he asked me to asked me if I could get some springs for him. I mean, I was getting springs from the same place he was. He just didn't want to order anymore because you had to order a run, and a run might be 1,000 or 1,500. So I would furnish him with springs and screws. So it was just a great relationship.
That's interesting, and I feel like when you see these custom call makers, whether you're at the NWTF convention or wherever the turkey tailgate, they're all buddies, and they all like to help each other out and help each other become more skilled at their trade and more successful. And I think that's the way to do things. That's great.
Yeah, I think you see that a lot with artists and with people that work with their hands too, because you want to pass those things down. But to your point, Mr. Lamar, you got to have somebody to hang with you. It don't happen easily.
Yeah. All right. So look, what is it about Neil calls that the obvious answer is they sound great, but what is it about them? A lot of these other manufacturers have tried to mimic or imitate, or is that just a tried and true formula for a successful call?
I think what set his calls apart was naturally the sound, but he was the first one, to my knowledge, that was making decorative calls. He was, by that I mean he was cherking them and inlay them. He was double inlaying paddles, double inlaying the sides of the box. He was laminating bottoms. Nobody was doing that. Plus he was hand hewing the calls. Nobody was doing that.
I was going to say, so the other ones were glued up, correct?
Yes, most people were gluing calls back then. Some of them were probably using some sort of high-speed wood removal, CNC or mortising, something along those lines.
I tell you, I watched some videos of you building some calls, and then you just laying a lid on one, screwing it down, and it sounded so henny, just without with no tuning, just straight out of Can talk to us about a box call. Is there a better way to hold one or handle one? Does each one can it be run differently, or does each one have its own special way that it needs to be held and run?
As far as holding the calls, I don't think so. As far as running the calls, I think we all run calls a little bit different. I have friends of mine that run split finger. I never learned I can run one split finger, but I just run it with my thumb and my index finger, thumb on the left side, index finger on the right side. Tuning a call, it's just different between each wood. Whether it's mahogany, poplar, walnut, cedar, all of them are a little bit different because the densities of the woods are a little bit different. So, and even within each of those species, you get some forms of walnut or like poplar. Comes mineral poplar, yellow poplar. Mineral poplar, for the most part, is harder than yellow poplar, so you would tune it a little bit different. You'd probably take more out. Where yellow poplar, you might not remove quite as much. But I normally take a call down to where it needs to be, where I think it needs to be based on the density of that particular call, and start trying paddles on it. And based on how it sounds, I might leave one side alone and then go to the other side and think I need to take a little bit more out to get just a better sound out of it. So I will do that. I have done that to the point that I would ruin one side or the other, and I'd toss it over on my burn pile, and I'd end up burning that one. But sometimes you have to change paddles. several times. I've changed paddles 15 times on call sometimes. But normally that doesn't happen. It's just it's a tedious process chiseling. Once you drill it, everything from that point on is all the stock is removed with a chisel. And then when you get on the bench and start tuning it, and you get in get to the point where you need to be, you need to know when to stop or when to start testing paddles, and from that point on, judging by the sound of that call where you need to remove more wood or leave it alone.
I tell you, I bet that is a tedious process.
Oh, yeah.
And just a lot of learning by doing and listening. I'm sure he did it for a long time before he mastered it.
Yeah.
Well, it occurs to me too that because you're working with wood, even though it's all walnut or all bodock or all mahogany or whatever, all some kind of oak, every tree is kind of a snowflake, to some degree. It's not a perfect resin like some plastic you'd make it out of or whatever. So that's the good and the bad. It takes it to a whole new level art form wise.
Yeah, you're working.
But it makes it more difficult at the same times too. So I mean, it is to me, it makes it even so much more special that first of all, that's going to be your best sound. I've heard everything known to man. I have heard some. Not a lot, but some aluminum, but it's aluminum on wood that sounded really good. But the natural wood sound from a box call is just incredible, done right. And I was going to ask you, it just seems like in general, and this is a very generalized statement, the ones I've heard that kind of almost took your breath, they sound so good, tended to be thinner than ones, that just sounded good but weren't super special. I don't know. Is there anything to that? I guess the kind of wood you have to be able to make them thinner.
The density of the wood determines the thickness of those tone boards. For the most part,
Right.
if you were tuning a walnut call, the tone boards would be a little thinner. You're going to have, it just varies. Like I said, even in the same wood groups, walnut from, say, New York State might be a little bit denser than walnut from Missouri. And I guess that has a lot to do with where it's grown, as far as the climate and so forth.
Yep.
It's the same. That's really true. That's really true in like
That's
butternut.
Right.
Hard to get really good butternut. Best butternut seems to grow in the coldest climates. But anyway, yeah, tuning a call. Like I wouldn't, if I was tuning a mahogany call or poplar call, for the most part, taking everything into consideration, it's just a normal block of walnut or a normal block of mahogany or poplar. I would tune, like I said, walnut a little bit thinner. Yellow poplar would probably be a little bit thicker than mineral poplar. Some of the densest mineral poplar I ever worked came from Alabama. And I guess that's got so much to do with mineral poplar grows down in the bottoms, and that color of mineral poplar, greens and purples and so forth. Of course, that's just just the soil, the minerals in the soil. So it's tuning each call. Each call is an individual. No two are going to be alike. I couldn't make two calls that sound alike if you gave me $1 million. It just doesn't happen. I can get them close, but I can't. Even the rollover's different. The rasp is different. That's why when a customer orders a call from me, I'll ask them, "You want a lot of rasp in it, a little rasp in it, or whatever?" And they will tell me. So I'll write that in my book. And when I get to that call, I know this person wants a call that's not real raspy. So when I'm making calls, I'll make one like he wants, and I might have another customer wants a lot of rasp. So I'll make that call that way, because I'll normally work 6 or 7, 8 calls at a time. When I'm on my bench, and it's just and different spraying a call. Once you sand the call, once you finish, put your finish on it. That finish makes a little bit of difference because it's going to tighten up that wood grain, and it's going to be a little bit different. Now that the average person, they might not pick up on that, but when you work calls day in and day out, and you've done it for all the years I have, you can tell the difference. Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Did you do you normally just purchase kiln dried lumber, or do you try to harvest some of it yourself, or how do you do that process?
I buy them from like wood dealers. Most of the wood I get is kiln dried. I have some like yellow poplar I get from a friend of mine who has 2 hardwood mills in Mississippi, and my son and I'll go hunt with him about every 3 years or so, and I'll always pick up yellow poplar from him.
Does he set aside some of the prettier mineral
No,
stuff
I won't.
for
I
you?
get yellow poplar from him, not mineral poplar. So
Got it.
and so now getting
And so,
wood's difficult. Getting good wood, walnut extremely difficult to find really good walnut. I can get walnut anywhere. I can get walnut in Jacksonville, but I can't get the grade of walnut that I want. And um, I was. Do you mind if I tell you this little story?
No,
I
we
go
was
ahead.
love stories.
I was up in Georgia visiting Billy Bice with a friend of mine, Darren Dawkins, who's another call maker, and we spent the night um, that night in Kennesaw and went to a hardwood dealer the next day that I'd been to before. And this place, they're a wholesaler, so any given time they've got 4,000 or 5,000 board feet of walnut on hand. So they set out 2 stacks of walnut. We went through both stacks of walnut. Now these are 10-foot boards, 8/4, 2 inches wide, anywhere from 10, 12 inches wide, 2 inches thick. And we went through probably 12 to 1,300 board feet of lumber, and I bought 7 boards.
Oof. Wow.
Well, if you don't mind divulging, what in particular are you looking for? In, for
I'm
example,
looking
walnut.
for down that 2-inch side. I'm looking for straight grain. I don't want any knots in the board if I can possibly avoid it, or as few knots as possible, so I can cut around them, because every one of those knots is a hard place. Not going to make good paddles, so they'll go into bottoms. And I want the color to be a grayish color, a kind of a dark gray color. I have had some walnut that was a little darker, made good paddles. Because I buy walnut strictly for paddles. I don't anything that will not make a good paddle, I'll try to make bottoms out of. I'll try to make bodies out of, if possible. If not, it would go into bottoms. So it's just difficult for me to find good wood. I've got enough of every wood that I'm going to use till I quit making calls. But I don't really need any more wood. But I'd always buy good walnut if I had a choice. But I'm not driving to Atlanta to buy anymore.
There you go.
Wow.
So when you were describing that walnut for lids, is that you said straight grain? Would that be like a flat sawn piece of wood, or a quarter sawn piece of wood?
It's going to be flat sawn piece of wood, because you can imagine a sawmill cutting quarter sawn lumber, and to cut quarter sawn lumber, he's got to cut as much of the sapwood off as he can get. Okay, and then he's got to turn that board. Every time he cuts, he's turning it a quarter, turn to quarter, turn to quarter. Now, if he quarter sawing everything, he's losing money. Because if he flat sawed it, he just goes right through. He brings his carriage back, cuts another one, brings his carriage back, cuts another one. So I think most of the wood that hardwood dealers have or flat sawn wood, and that 2-inch side is going to be the straight grain. If it was flat sawn, that straight grain would be on top of the board. It'd be the width of the board.
Well, we learned a lot there.
Yeah, I'm actually looking up quarter sawn versus flat sawn. I just never even thought about that. Thank y'all guys.
Well, Mr. Lamar, can you walk us back? You told Dudley that you about a little bit about your first turkey, but can you tell us about that hunt, and then maybe back up a little bit further? And how did you get interested in turkey hunting?
My dad didn't hunt. Nobody in my family hunted except an uncle. He had a bird dog, and me and a couple of my friends go get his bird dog from time to time and quail hunt. But I've always been interested in turkey hunting. And it just fascinated me. So I was member of the church that I was going to. I was in high school in the 10th grade. He hunted deer primarily, him and his son and some more of his friends. And they turkey hunted too, but the way they turkey hunted, we turkey hunt in the fall, but we would roost shoot the birds, which was legal back then. So that's not a big deal. They didn't call birds. That's just the way they did it. And I've killed birds like that back then, but I really became interested in turkey hunting. I started doing it on my own. I didn't have anybody to teach me, so I made a lot of mistakes, and I killed my first gobbler. It was a WMA, and it was in '82, and it was up in the morning, about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was sitting down close to a creek with some oak trees. It was blackjack oaks, small oaks, and I'd been calling. I didn't hear a thing, and I was looking around, and I saw this gobbler walking down the road. He was coming. He just wasn't saying anything. And when he got close enough, I got my gun up and shot him, and I knocked him down, and he got up. So I shot him again, and that was my first turkey. First gobbler.
See, Bobby, some other people shoot twice.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a lot of those. Hey, walk me back to this roost shoot thing. Now, how did that happen? Would you just sneak in on them on the roost and shoot them off the limb? Was that how it was done back in the day?
It was, but what they would do, they would roost those turkeys the night before, and then they would go in. We would go in the next morning and go down to where they were roosted and wait for it to break daylight. And when they started calling in those trees, we'd try to get as close as we could to them and shoot them off the roost. But that's, like I say, that was an acceptable practice back then. A lot of people did that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't dare do that now.
My dad, yeah. That's how my dad describes his first turkey.
Is that right?
Yeah. I was like, really? He said, yeah.
Well, all that sounds like something I might do, except shooting them off the limb. I mean, I try to get close to them. That's a bad thing, but I need to break that habit in myself.
What, trying to get close
Trying
to
get, I always think
Why?
I can get a little bit closer.
I always
Because I
think-
end up spooking one every year.
Yeah.
But anyway, I do love to, if you can actually see one, that is
I
so
love
cool.
getting sneaky on them. That's for sure.
Well, Mr. Lamar, have you got a favorite turkey story that you could tell us? All these years of you turkey hunting.
I was hunting Davis Love's place in Georgia with my grandson Tate. And I think Tate was 10. And he's 30 now, so that was 20 years ago. And we were hunting a swamp just probably 50 to 75 yards from one of Davis' fields. And we had went in at dark. Turkeys always roosted pretty much in that same location. You just didn't know exactly where they were going to be roosted on the backside of that field. So Tate and I eased in there before daylight and set up and waited for them to gobble. They started gobbling, and we waited to the right time. I did some tree yelps, and turkeys would gobble, and they flew down. They flew down about 100 yards from us, and I started calling them, and they started coming. And nice gobbler. He's probably a 4-year-old gobbler. Came in. There were 3 gobblers, but he was the closest. So he came in, and Tate shot him. And while we were hunting those turkeys, there was a turkey gobbling behind us across the road about 200 or 300 yards down the road. And I told Tate, I said, Tate, wait here. You stay right here. I'll be back. I'm going after that gobbler. So I left, and I went to that gobbler, and I called him in and killed him. So we got a double that day. So that was a great hunt.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
good
was it?
day.
Wow.
No doubt about it.
Sounded like there's a lot of turkeys down in that part of the world.
I
doesn't it?
know.
Bobby, back off.
Here we
Yeah.
go. Here
Yeah.
he goes. Look at him smiling over there. That's right.
Yeah, that's a great story. Did you regret leaving Tate? Was there a side of you said want to take him, and what was your thought process there in making him stay? Was he did he move a lot? Lanny moves a lot. I would have told Lanny just stay right here.
Yes,
Lanny.
you would have. And I
No,
wouldn't
Tate
have. Yeah.
Tate didn't move a lot, but turkey hunting too was a crowd. So Tate was very good about staying still. His dad would take him turkey hunting when he was carrying him on his shoulders. And when he killed his first turkey when he was 6. And anytime we go scouting back then, and we leave the woods, even turkey hunting, we leave the woods at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. He'd cry. He didn't want to leave. He wanted to stay there all day. He didn't. There
wanted
wasn't
to
nothing for
stay.
him to do at home. He
about
could
that?
do stuff in the
love it.
woods, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I bet from a young age, he probably learned to run a box call. You probably gave him some invaluable lessons. Could he pick up on it so
Yes.
quick at a young age?
Yes, he picked up on that early on. I don't know how old he was when he killed his first gobbler by himself. I'm not sure. But
Some people just have an ear for that.
Yeah, it's a musical
He
ear.
does.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
he worked
To
in the
listen to
shop
it,
with
sure
me
do.
quite a bit coming up. He was always in and out of the shop, and when he was in college and some in high school, he would come and sit with me and learn to make calls. And he's made scratch boxes, and he's made box calls, and right now he's been making trumpet calls for about the last 3 or 4 years. He's been focused on trumpet calls, but he doesn't make a lot of trumpet calls. He's got a lot of orders, but he just doesn't have the time to do it.
Well, that one's just gotten real popular.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So, listening to your kind of chronologically, your call making history and your turkey killing history, is it safe to assume that you were making your own turkey calls before you killed your first turkey?
Yes, I was making calls then,
Wow.
making scratch boxes and some box calls. Yes,
So, the first turkey you ever harvested was on a
Yes.
turkey call you had made yourself? Wow.
Yeah, no,
Hit
that's
the
impressive.
horns.
That really
That's
is
good
impressive.
stuff. For
Yeah,
sure.
that's good
Yeah.
stuff.
I've always bragged about that because that's what did. He was 14. Somebody told him how to, but he made a mouth call
Mouth call.
himself.
Out of wire and
Copper
latex.
wire and medical tape
Prophylactic.
and a condom. And he had a great story about it because he made it, and this man named Neil Frederick was legendary back in those days in the lower Alabama swamps. And he couldn't get it to sound like Mr. Neal's would. And he said, "Boy, I told you before you make a call out of that Compton condom, you got to go out there and temper it first." I bet I've heard Daddy tell that story 1,000 times. He just laughs and laughs when he tells it.
Oh my goodness!
That's good stuff.
Wow. Well, let me go back. It's just one thing I'm trying to. When you're tuning a box call, are you messing with that screw and are you tightening it a little bit? Are you loosening it a little bit? Or I'm just always scared to do too much with that screw.
Yeah, I always have to mess with them.
Yeah, I always miss them.
Well, I don't think you should mess with them. I glue mine in place when I'm through tuning it. Now you can break it loose, but
No.
I put a little drop of glue in the screw hole when I'm finished. But adjusting that screw,
Oh,
to me, when I make a call, that's where that lid's adjusted to. That's where it needs to be. You don't need to move it forward. You don't need to move it back. And most all calls, box calls, are going to sit rear of center anyway. You don't find
right.
maybe some
Yes.
production calls or something might be in the center, but
That's what I was thinking.
Rear of center.
Back of
that
the
would
Well,
be
I mean, the back side of it, like
no,
towards the screw.
back in the
So,
opposite
you
end
know,
of the
when you-
screw. Yeah,
Oh, really? Gosh, most
so
of
the
ones I
closer
think-
closer side to the user.
Well, like, plus as you run it, it moves down the lid too. So I mean, some of them have a lot longer kind of stroke to
Yes.
them than others too.
Yeah. So, Mr. Lamar, let me ask this: can a box call, like if a guy bought one of yours 30 years ago, can it wear out? Will that tone change over time? And I'm saying your call because you probably make one of the best out there.
it depends on how much you used it. I'd say typically the typical turkey hunter. Now, you got turkey hunters and you got people that hunt turkeys. Now, they're two different groups of people, in my opinion. So,
Yes,
so
sir.
anyway, the average turkey hunter, you're not going to wear out a box call. I've seen Neil Cost calls that were 40 years old, and they're not worn out. But let me tell you a story. Had a friend of mine. He bought a number of calls from me over the years before he passed away a few years ago, and he lived by himself, and he ran turkey calls every day of his life. And he'd run them several hours a day, switching back and forth between different calls. And if he got one he really, really liked, he'd use it more. Well, he called me up one time and he says, Lamar, something's wrong with this paddle on the right side, or the box on the right side. It was a paddle call, actually. It was a mahogany paddle call. And I said, well, run it for me. On the phone, he called me. So he ran it, and he was right. It sounded awful. I said, run that left side. And he ran it. It sounded good. He said, I'm not having trouble with the left side. It's right side. I said, okay, send that call back to me. So he sent it to me. And I looked at the call and I said, he had worn the right side of that call flat. There was no way to repair it. So I called him up and told him, his name was Blake. I said, Blake, you have worn the right side of this call out. I said, you call on it every day, day in and day out, time and time again. And I know you've got a lot of other calls from me you call on as well, but you just worn this one out. And I said, I'll make you another call and I'll send it to you. So I did. I made him another call, sent it to him. They didn't charge him anything for it. Just sent it to him, replaced it. And I've still got that call in my shop that I show people. Well, you can wear them out if you just, play with them all the time, day in and day out. But the average hunting with them, you're not going to wear one out.
That makes sense.
Did you say he was single?
He was single, and
Okay.
and he was retired, and he had medical issues. Had a tough time getting around, so he was just happy as he could be sitting in his house all day watching television, turning it off and running turkey calls. He had turkey calls from different makers as well, but he was tough on turkey calls.
I bet. Yeah, my wife wouldn't put up with that for sure.
So, do you get to travel much in turkey hunt, Mr. Lamar?
I don't do that much anymore. I did it one time. Never traveled a lot. I've hunted in Mississippi and Alabama and South Carolina and Georgia, Alabama, but I don't travel much anymore. I've got all the turkeys I need to hunt right here, and I've never had an interest in getting a slam or anything like that. To me, a turkey's a turkey. So whether I kill him here or
Another thing, like my dad,
Yeah.
what did he say about the ducks? I've told that story when
Yeah.
the point of it is a duck's a duck to me, son.
Yeah.
But he would always say, well, if there's 3 longbeards, you can see the spurs are long or the beard. Which one would you shoot, or the strutter? Or he would say, you shoot the fish legal. SOB, you put your bead on, son.
I live by that.
Yeah, he was just he wasn't into the trophy thing whatsoever. He was just like,
Yeah.
a 2-year-old was just as much fun as I know you can brag on the long spurs, but to him,
They're all just
yeah.
as fun
I
as
love
me.
a 2-year-old.
I do too.
No.
Never
for sure.
lost that boyish enthusiasm for it
I
ever.
think
That was so much fun
I think
to
I like
see.
the 2-year-olds more.
They sure
personally.
behave. They sure behave better.
Yeah. So, Mr. Lamar, down there in Florida where you are through all these years, have you ever had any encounters with a panther?
I've never seen a panther. I've
Wow.
got a friend that has some property down around Okeechobee, and 2 years ago, his family farmed about 25,000 acres down there, and they had a lot of turkeys on that property. He said, I never hunted down there with him, but he came up to visit with me several years ago and showed me a picture of 5 panthers around a feeder in one field.
It's a lot of panthers.
I don't
Wow.
buy into there's. I mean, they might be an endangered species, but I think there's a whole lot more of them out there than they let on there is.
We have heard that before as well.
Yeah. All right. I've got one more question about box calls. After the season is over with, is there a certain way a guy should store his box call? Should he put it in a gun safe, or keep it in the air conditioned house? Or I mean, can something go wrong if you stored it out in your storage building?
Well, you want to keep it away from moisture. You need to keep it in the house or someplace that's you have humidity controlled, temperature controlled. And it's like my calls. I send my call in a plastic bag that fits the call. Now and then I wrap it in bubble wrap. But that is for shipping purposes only. Nobody should store those calls in that plastic bag. Take that plastic bag off and throw it away, and just put the call back in the box when you're through hunting with it. Or you can leave it in your holster. On your vest. I've got a belt that I use to carry calls on, carry compass, a knife, things like that. But mine stays in my shop year round. Of course, I have AC and heat in there, so I wouldn't, for goodness sakes, during the season or whenever, don't keep them in your vehicle, because that heat will affect that call.
Mm-hmm. I've found myself worrying about that too,
Especially the glued up.
That Lanny, what's that look?
I need to be worrying about it.
Well, if you can't, I would say this: I do leave my best in the
He's got a
truck.
long face all of a sudden.
Whoops, yeah.
I try to be sure I park the vehicle in the shade and not let the sun come in on it, because I can see that happening too.
Yeah. So, Mr. Lamar, through the years, have you ever been building a call and screw that lid on there and run it and just go, oh my goodness, nobody's going to buy this one? And you just have you ever just hit one that was just like, this is her right here?
I've had both sides of that. I've spent hours and hours on one and end up throwing it away, burning it, and then some I make. I don't want to ship it out. I want to keep it.
I bet.
I bet so.
Dilla, do you have a question?
Well, I was going to ask him exactly that. Does he have a bunch that he's kept? And he answered it for me, and I don't blame him for that either.
Hey, I do have a question along those same lines you're talking about. Any advice to us if we inadvertently trip and fall in the water, or you slip on crossing a log in the creek and you get a box call really wet, or a wood call? I mean, any advice to try to salvage it?
Probably put it on a low heat source, like your hot water heater, something like that. You
Right.
don't leave it out in the sun to dry out. And don't just a low heat source, and it should come back. You might have to re. I know most people have cars aren't going to do this, but you might have to maybe touch up the top of the tone boards on them with some well-used sandpaper or something. Maybe even on the bottom of the paddle. Just cup your hands to the curvature of that paddle. Put a piece of 150 in there on in your hand. Wipe all that chalk off, and then take and redress that paddle, and it should come back. I had another story. I had a guy from Alabama last December. I had made him a Cypress paddle call. This past December was a year ago, and he hunted with it during the spring. And then when the gobbler season was over, he called me up. He said, "There's something wrong with my box call," and he says, "It just doesn't sound right." I said, "Okay." I said, "Run it for me." He ran it, and sure enough, it didn't sound good. He says, "Well, let me tell you what happened." He says, I got caught in the rain, and my call got wet, and I just put it up like you told me on a low heat source, hot water heater, and let it dry out for several days, and then I re-chalked it, and but it still doesn't sound good." I said, "Okay." I said, send it back to me." So he did. And I opened the box when I got it, and he had chalk from the handle to the screw, and it was caked on there. And I said, "My God!" And to beat that, it was red chalk. I have nothing against red chalk. I like red chalk. It's good chalk. But anyway, I had to get all that chalk off the best I could, and then I redressed that, resanded that with 150, touched up the tone boards, and tried it, and it was good. It sounded good, but there was one thing that went wrong with that call, and I couldn't send it back to him. When that call came in, I was not at home. I was in town, and my 5-year-old great-granddaughter was here. She was 4 at that time. And that box came in, and she likes to open presents. And she, unbeknownst to my wife, she reached in a drawer and got a butter knife out and punched holes in that box. And I'd asked my wife, I said, "How'd these holes get in here?" She says, "Well, McKinley did that. I didn't see her doing it." I said, "Okay." So when I opened the box in my shop, it had little dents in it where that knife blade. Now, it didn't hurt the call, but I didn't feel right sending him back that call. And I called him up and told him, and he said, "No, I want that call back." I said, "I'm not going to give it to you back." I said, "This is going to be my granddaughter's call, my great-granddaughter's call. I'm going to sign this over to her." And he said, "Well, I sure would like to have it." I said, No, she damaged it, and I've made you another one." I said, "When you get it, let me know if you like it." And he called me up. He says, "Yeah." He said, "But he kept saying that call's got a story with it." I said, "I know, that's why I'm going to keep it." So I put her name on it, and it's hers now. I'm holding it for her.
That's good stuff right there.
Yeah, it is. Well, I tell you what, there's a lot of good videos on Lamar Williams that you can go watch, Lanny, like on YouTube and whatnot. Those YouTube guys are everywhere. But he's an incredible story. So, Mr. Williams, how would a guy? Have you got a website or?
Just call me on the phone. I do not have a website. He can just call me. But I can give you my phone number, and y'all could.
We'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, we'll do that. Then if somebody wants to get in touch with you, they can. It's a great story. Golly, Have you ever hunted down in that part of Florida? Was Lamar Williams somebody that you paid any attention
Yes,
to?
I have. I hunted. I didn't hunt Lovett's place down at Fish Eating Creek, but I've hunted several places down there in that same general area out of Okeechobee. There's a number of management areas down there that are good management areas. And my son and my grandson and I have killed a number of turkeys down there in the past. It is, but that answers your question. But it is so difficult anymore to draw a quota permit for those areas. A resident has to have 5 or 6, maybe 7 points to draw an area down there. So that's 5 or 6, 7 years in between hunting down there. So I quit applying for it now. There's special opportunity hunts down there that you can send $5 in for every application. You can send as many applications as you want, but and you might get drawn, you might not get drawn. But that's South Florida is a great place to hunt if you can get in down there. Most of the land down there is private, but there are a few management areas down there.
I hear of people winning from time to time, and
Yeah.
it's a magical place if you can get in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Well, why don't we do this? This has been so much fun to talk to you. We've got a trivia question that we could ask. Let me just go back and say the rapid fire was brought to us by Nutrient Ag Solutions. I don't know that we said that back in that
No, we
time.
didn't. Even though Mitchell
It
reminded
reminded
me.
us, yeah. And then so as we approach this, the trivia question is brought to you by the Peanut Patch.
Our buddies at the Peanut
They are
Patch.
famous for boiled peanuts.
Yes.
And Mitchell, we'll turn it over. You got the question. Let's see what you got.
Well, before we start the question, I have a user review from YouTube.
Oh, are we on YouTube?
I think so.
Man, you should go check it out.
But Pest Hunter Outdoors on YouTube. I learned a lot about turkey calls on this episode. Keep up the great work.
Is it PES, P-E-S, or P-E-Z?
P-E-S-T, like
Oh,
pest.
Pest
Pest
Hunter.
Hunter.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what did he win, Bobby?
Yeah, so we're still with the Newcomb blinds. We've got several more of the Newcomb blinds to give away. So if you'll Pest Hunter, if you'll get in touch, we'll get that sent right out to you.
Nice.
But the trivia question today is from Bobby. I'll
Of
start with
course.
that. It's a true or false.
50-50.
All right,
I
Mr.
am.
Lamar, you paying attention now?
Okay.
There's a lot at stake here.
Possums can give birth up to 25 babies, but can only nourish 13. True or false?
True.
That is
That
true.
is it.
True. Nice.
Wow,
that?
he barely hesitated too.
Yeah.
Wow.
What I read is they give birth to 25, and then it's a race for those first
Top 13 make it.
to get to a T.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
It probably is a survival mechanism.
And she does that twice a year.
Golly, that's a lot of possums.
It is.
So what happens to the
So
ones
26 possums a year.
I'd never. When I saw this, it surprised me. I said, "This will make great dinner conversation for our listeners."
So what happens to the other 12 that don't make it to a
Bobby,
teat?
They don't make it.
Yeah, coyote bait.
You didn't
so
think
sad.
about them, did you? It is sad.
A little bit, yeah. Okay. Well, look, we made.
Honestly, I hate
We
to
need
say.
to find a surrogate possum mom.
I don't know. We don't need any more possums.
No. I'm sorry, but if it eats a turkey egg, I'm sorry.
It got to go.
It's got to go.
Did y'all notice we made Lamar Williams laugh?
We did.
Y'all are funny.
Yep.
How about that? Well, I tell you what, Mr. Lamar Williams, what a treasure you are. What an interesting story. And just it's like a gem in the turkey hunting world that hearing these old school call makers, these custom call makers, and the way they do it. And most of them don't have websites, Lanny. Most of them don't have a Facebook page, Lanny.
it.
And they're just old school, Toxic. That's
100%.
something special.
You know, I thought about it, listening to him talk about the craft of wood and working with wood. And I think while some would think it's frustrating because it's not a perfect science, you know, they're all different and whatnot, that leads to great artists. And only the great artists that can, you know, get to the top of the game and everything like he is. I always love sayings out of a movie where it came from. There was one in a movie that it was actually that one about the women's baseball team. But the point was they were complaining about how hard it had gotten. And he goes, hey, The hard is the only thing that makes it great. If it was easy, everybody could do it. And I think about it, there's so few to his level. And there's some, and they're all buddies and stuff too. They share stuff and all, but there's not many that can do it, because it takes that art, science, patience all combined. And someone who loves it so much, they just stick with it. Big time.
One of the biggest words I learned, in that degree I got a long time ago in art and photography.
You graduated?
Was craftsmanship.
Oh, that's exactly right.
Craftsmanship was the word. And Bill Lester was one of my professors.
So I didn't know.
He's a craftsman.
My son Neil
Yes, he
came
did.
and spent a day in your shop. I texted him that we were doing a podcast with you, and they was like, both of them the best of the best. That's what my text came back saying. So I thought I'd pass that along to you.
Yeah.
And then I
stuff.
had another professor, Dr. Laurie Grace, who let me make a scratch box call in the wood forest products class.
Oh, nice.
Pretty cool.
And one of her favorite quotes was, her therapy was making shavings.
Oh.
Making shavings was her
It
therapy.
is therapeutic. I'm going to go and tell you. Bobby, you've experienced a little bit of the making shavings. and had the
but it can be
therapy.
very frustrating.
It can be,
too.
but it does. Once you're done,
Yeah.
it's very therapeutic.
Yeah.
That's right. Gotta love
I would
that
think
wood.
It's kind of like, fishing. You just, a lot of your worries go away. So, making shavings, fishing, but whatever you like doing, it's
There is something therapeutic about working with your hands,
It's
for
something
sure.
about when you figure out why God put you here and what your calling is. People it's amazing how zoned in and productive and everything works that they are in life. And it's got to be a feeling sometimes for you after a lifetime of this and all this come about that you feel like that's kind of been your calling.
Oh,
I would bet.
absolutely. I see in Psalms 139 where it says that he knew us before he placed us in our mother's womb. All our days were planned for us before a single moment passed. So, yes, we've all got a calling.
Chill bumps. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
There you have it.
Yeah, that is really good.
That's
Yeah,
strong
really
right there,
good.
Bobby.
All right, Mr. Lamar Williams, we're looking at you. Is there anything you'd like to say before you get off?
Yes, I'd like to thank y'all for having me on here. It's very kind of y'all to do that. And Toxie, if you would, just tell Neil thank you for me. You got a great son. He's a great young man.
Thank you. If I could he's hard on my stock is the only thing. he's a killer.
Yeah.
And he doesn't take no for an answer. I don't know where he got that from.
I don't either.
He can negotiate with the best of them.
Well, he's a great example of it's a lot easier to ask for forgiveness and permission too. So
What was can you just briefly tell the story of that year when he and his friends killed all the turkeys?
Friends, it was
yeah,
Mac.
he was
Mac.
Mac was the straw that broke the camel's back though. He was in college and they were they could skip class if who knows what was going on, but they had I think 1, 2 they'd already killed I forgot how many, but he doubled twice. And the second time I said, that's it, okay? No more. And he's like, Dad, I don't even have to go. I just want to take my friends. You don't want to, I got this pity party thing. And I said, in a weak moment, I said, fine, okay, you can still go. But here's the deal. One gun, that's it. Okay, whatever.
Which
And
meant
so I was
one
out of-
turkey. Yeah.
Well, I was out of town and came back, and he knew I'd just gotten back. I had to go with some customers in Texas, I think. And he was like, the battery's dead on my truck. Can you get someone to come out here or someone out here or whatever? And so I got out there, and he had been out there with Mac, and there was 2 turkeys, and I lit their tails up. And, of course, I think Mac was kind of ducking for cover while I had it focused
sure.
on Neil. And I said, I told you that is it. You're done hunting this year. You if you find somewhere else, but not on our place. You're done. I told you one gun, and here's what you did. He said, "Oh, Daddy, we just took one gun." I said, "That's not what I meant, and you know it." So it ends up, Neil. They had some that they were in a field, and they literally left the camp because it wasn't far from the camp, and didn't even put their boots on. It was like 10 in the morning. And crawled down an old hedgerow and got close enough to where I think it got to about 100 yards. I'm in a big field. And they came up, and when, just like they do, Neil shot one, and evidently the other one jumped on him like they do sometimes. And as he kept on flogging the other one, he, in a weak moment, and Mike was like, come on, it's okay. It's just one gun, like that. So anyway, that's my story. And I did shut them down after that for the year. That was it for them.
Good story.
Well, Toxie, that's just your
Well, I
burden.
mean, I got a lot of people and a lot of family, and so I'm just to the point where it is so depressing to get to a year when you just don't have them, and they're not gobbling, and you don't really have any jakes, and you don't know where things are going with your life's work in that regard. And so I just got to the point where we're going to get it to where it needs to be, and we're going to keep it that way. And if it means we back off on hunting, we'll just back off on hunting.
Yeah,
You know?
for sure. All right, Mr. Lamar Williams, we'll put in the notes, the show notes, Lanny, remind me about this. We'll put his phone number in there. And, boy, I tell you what, I bet you're going to get some phone calls. The box calls. But, look, I've lost my mind. Have you got a call there? Would you run a call for us, please?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let me see here.
I don't know. What in the world was I thinking, Lanny?
I haven't. You weren't.
This is a wal-
You're thinking about all the turkeys in Florida.
What you got?
This is a walnut box.
Oh, my God.
Mm.
Oh.
Pretty handy to me.
That was beautiful.
God bless a
What
box
did you
call.
say, Bobby? Let not my heart be stilled. Let now my heart be stilled.
Oh, my goodness.
That was like a high rasp. I mean,
Everything in it.
can you describe what that sounds like to you? Like if you were describing, if a customer asked for that, what would that be?
That would be kind of a medium rasp call to me. It was both sides a little raspy. One side, right side, I think, raspier than the left side. But it's I think you need a little bit of that rasp in them. You don't, we're all very opinionated on sounds, but
Sure.
I like that. That's all
And that was
walnut box call.
Walnut on walnut.
Well, it's beautiful. So, how does a guy buy a call from you? Is there a waiting list that you have to get on?
Oh, sure.
Is that how that works?
Yes, sir. They need to be patient. I've got at least a 2-year back order.
Wow.
And it was a lot worse than that. I tried to catch it up some, and I did. I've had several people call me the last couple of months wanting calls. And I don't make them, I never made a lot of calls. If I made 110 to 20 calls a year, I'd set the world on fire. But I don't do that anymore. I make 75 calls a year, something like that. It just depends. I'm out in my shop every day doing something, but I might not necessarily be tuning calls. I might be cutting blocks out or cutting paddles out. Normally, when you do that with me, when I'm cutting blocks or cutting paddles, that's an all day job. That's 6 or 7, 8 hours on table saw all day, and then sorting through all of them, and it's just a lot to do out there other than just sitting down and tuning calls, matching a paddle to it. Checkering is time consuming. By the time you draw the patterns on them and then take a chisel and cut those patterns out, it's very time consuming. So it's, I've got, it just depends. When you take everything into consideration that I do, from getting the wood to shipping a call, I've got 5 or 6 hours in most calls. So it's and something I wanted to do for you too. I've got a this is a plain sided box. This is mahogany, walnut over mahogany, and it's going to probably sound a little bit different than that walnut box, but
Wow. Wow.
So it's checkering affects the sound of the call. To me, it kind of mellows the call. But I like plain-sided boxes too. I'm gonna start making some more plain-sided boxes. I like the way
That
they
thing
sound.
sounded great.
It
Real
sure
nasally.
all do.
Yeah.
I like that mahogany sound.
Yeah. Well, all those sounded great.
Yeah.
There's no doubt Craftsman.
Spitting feathers.
Yeah. Wow. All right, guys, this has been a great one. I think we've all learned a lot.
Yeah. Thanks for your time
Yeah,
today.
and just love to hearing the perspective of someone who's had this passion his whole life and lived it. I mean, it's just so, whatever the word is, enriching to be able to sit back and listen to and kind of just, whatever, soak it up.
Absorb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep. Well, guys, look, on the Sportsman's Channel right now, Sunday nights. What time, Mitchell? What time's that TV show airing on Sunday nights? 10 o'clock on Eastern Time.
9 o'clock Central.
That's right. So, Landy, you ever watch the Sportsman's Channel?
I do not, but I might need to tune in to watch to get
we
more
got some-
of you, Bobby. I mean,
you
I
probably
would
don't
love
get
to-
enough
I don't
of
get
me.
enough to spend enough time with
All
you.
right, but yeah, y'all check it out. Sportsman's Channel.
Landy
if you-
doesn't watch anything he has to pay for.
No, that is true. Free
For
TV.
someone
Oh,
who's-
rabbit ears,
What are you
Lanny.
talking about,
Yeah,
Bobby?
for someone who's never paid for a haircut in his entire life,
I paid for one.
once.
Yeah. It's been a
Probably
long
because your
time.
wife made you do it.
Yeah, it's
You know,
been a long
Lanny
time.
can get 28 channels on his rabbit ears.
21.
Wow.
21.
21.
Our buddy Bob Dixon described him as squeezing a penny till Lincoln hollers.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
That's right.
I only spend money on the good stuff. That's
Well, Lamar Williams, we've thoroughly enjoyed this, and hope we get to see you sometime soon.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. Again, I thank y'all so much for this interview, and I hope y'all have a great turkey season.
We will.
Yeah.
Just watching the woods wake up again is worth it.
Amen. Amen. Don't have to kill them anymore.
No.
All right.
Although it's fun.
Yeah, that it is. All right, guys, looking around the room, why don't you say goodbye, Dudley?
Goodbye, Dudley.
Get us out of here, Mitchell.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast, and be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine, and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.